Hey everyone, I'm Parker, co-founder of Deco Exchange. Ever been told that crafting is just a hobby? Well, we've turned our passion for crafting into a thriving 8-figure business, surrounded ourselves with an incredible community, and learned countless valuable lessons along the way. From navigating business challenges to celebrating wins, we've seen firsthand that makers mean business. Join me as we dive deep into these stories, strategies, and secrets behind making your craft a successful enterprise. Because here at Makers Mean Business, we're all about proving that makers aren't just making, they're building dreams and running businesses. What is up, everyone? It is Parker here with the Makers Mean Business podcast. I am back for, I don't even know, y'all. I think it's episode 5, but this will be the last episode of this series. The shipping efficiency, shipping tips, shipping, all about shipping series. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about, really, it's just, I guess, a few kind of tips, a few kind of things that have really helped us along the way, a few things that have really made a big difference. Some of this stuff, it may seem kind of, it may not seem super important right now. It may seem like it doesn't really add much value. But the reality is, as you continue to grow and scale and have more and more orders come in, hopefully, right? Doing some of these things will make a much bigger impact. Think of it, let's just use this analogy. You have $10 and you save $1 on something, or you save 50 cents on something. It doesn't really make that much of a difference. It's like a drop in the bucket, right? If you just get a little bit more efficient, it doesn't really make a big difference when you're only doing, let's say, just one shipment a week. But what if you're doing 100 shipments a week, or you're saving 50 cents on that $10 10 times, right? It all starts to add up. So some of the things that I'm going to talk about may seem insignificant, but like I said, as you continue to grow and scale, these things are going to make a whole lot of a difference whenever you're actually shipping a lot. And maybe some of you guys listening are shipping a lot already. You might not have even thought about some of these things. The first thing that I'm going to want to suggest is some kind of storage. And I'll talk about our experience and what I've been through in terms of the warehouse and what we do now. If this is your first time listening, or you have absolutely no idea who I am or what I do, we have it's probably around 35,000 square feet warehouse right now. We have somewhere on the order of 6,000 to 8,000 active SKUs that we're actively shipping and selling on a daily basis. And we ship around 12,000 packages per month. So I've seen a lot. I've kind of learned through trial by fire. I didn't go to school for this. I didn't get any kind of training on this. It was just, let's just try different stuff and figure out what works. So that's where my experience is. That's how I know what I'm talking about, or at least share my perspective on how things have helped us. So storage is super duper important. If you're in the wreath making business, I have a very kind of intimate relationship with shipping and selling wreaths. One thing that's worked really well for us is some kind of grid wall or some kind of hanging system that you can hang them on the wall. That being said, I've had success with packaging them. Imagine packing them so they're ready to go immediately, and just stacking the boxes. Depending on what kind of storage space you have, how much space you have, where you are, what works for you, that may be an option as well. But really, storing them is going to save you a lot of time. The whole storage idea is you want to make sure that it's organized in some way. So if you have them on a wall, I would suggest keeping track of them in some kind of location system. And for another analogy, most of you guys probably have heard of the game Battleship, where it's like you're guessing where the opponent's ships are. It's like A11 or B16. You can also think of like bingo, like trying to find the number on the grid in bingo. You want to make sure that you're assigning a location to every SKU or every item that you have. That way, whenever it sells, you know where that item is. And going back to what I was saying earlier, this might not really add much value when let's say you have 10 items and you know where each of those 10 items are. But if you have a bunch of items, it gets more and more effective. The bigger the storage, the more different items that you have. What we saw whenever we started, I guess, shipping more and having more items and having less and less organization as we got more and more stuff, we were spending more time trying to find the stuff than we were actually packing and shipping it. And I think we reached a critical mass where it's okay, we have to figure out a way to know where this stuff is. Because at the end of the day, once you have so many things, you can only remember where so much stuff is. And it's a double-edged sword here, because if you start asking for help, if you start hiring help, maybe your husbands, your kids, your wife, whatever it is, are starting to get more involved with the packing and shipping, they don't know where the stuff is like you do. And it becomes less and less of a memory game and more of an organizational game. So as you continue to grow, as you continue to scale, you really want to make sure you have a decent amount of, let's just say you need to be intentional about the storage and be extremely intentional about knowing where stuff is. We use a row, shelf, bin, location system where everyone knows. We actually go one level deeper on that, I should say. We do have a zone. So it's zone, row, shelf, and bin. So every item in our storage has a zone indicator. It has a row indicator, it has a shelf indicator, and it has a bin indicator. So whenever something sells, we know exactly where that item is and where it is in the warehouse. It is a lot of housekeeping, but in our experience, the housekeeping amount of work vastly reduces the amount of work you have to do to try to find stuff. When we were not as busy as we are now, we went back to the battleship thing, right? Where we had wreaths on a wall. Imagine it like a grid. Imagine it like a bingo card. We had row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4. We had column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, column A, B, C, D, whatever you want to think of it. But then when something sold, we just had it in the name or in the SKU number, C4. So we knew that we needed to go to column C, and then it's on row 4. And that's where that wreath lived. It cut down on so much time and effort, so much frustration. And as you can imagine, it's way easier to just walk up to C4 and pick up that thing off of the wall instead of thinking, oh man, where's that Christmas wreath with the dog paws? And they all start to blend together, and then the colors are all mixed up, and then things just get moved around. So that really makes a big difference. It's not directly related to shipping, but it is shipping adjacent in terms of packing and shipping and that whole process. So I definitely wanted to touch on that. The next thing I wanted to touch on is just technology in general. At the very least, if you're shipping a decent amount, one of the biggest things that will save you time and frustration is just having a label printer. It's way easier to peel and stick a label onto a box than it is to print out a label. Then you got to walk over there. You have to find the tape. You have to tape it onto the box. But when you were taping it, you mistape it, then you rip it up, it ripped the paper. Now the barcode won't scan. So there's a whole lot of things that can go wrong. And having most of them you can get for 50, 60, 70 bucks. You don't ever have to buy ink for them. They work extremely well in a lot of different conditions. So they're definitely a good investment. So yes, get a shipping label printer, a label printer. Dymo has good ones. Zebra has good ones. There's a whole bunch of different brands out there. So you can check those out. The labels are cheap. You don't need ink, so it can pay for itself if you start shipping a decent amount every week. Most of them are plug and play, meaning you can just plug it into your computer and your computer knows what to do with it and press print and you're good to go. If you're shipping on Etsy, it generates labels most of the labels are 4 inches by 6 inches. So most of the kind of templates, whenever you're printing labels, it naturally goes to that size. So it's very user-friendly in my experience. We have about 6, maybe 5 packing stations that we use pretty well every day, really. And they all have one of those printers on there, and it saves so much time. Again, it might not save you too much time when you just print maybe one a day or one a week, but when you start getting really busy, you're definitely going to want to do that because it just makes things so much easier and so much more streamlined. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on was just some kind of shipping software. There's software, and I'll just talk generally. I prefer to use something like cheaperwreathshipping.com. That'll get you, it basically can price check a bunch of different carriers for you at once. So you can check the price on UPS, you can check the price on FedEx, you can check the price on USPS, and it'll show, okay, based on this location, based on the ship to address, based on the weight, based on the box size, your label cost is going to be, let's just say $10 for UPS, $12 for FedEx, and $8 for USPS. You just saved yourself a few bucks. Maybe you only ship with FedEx, so that'll save you $2. If you only ship with UPS, that'll save you $4. That stuff really adds up, and there's software out there that can facilitate that. There's software out there that will automatically send your tracking numbers over to Etsy. There's software that connect to your Shopify store. That's software that will email your customers for you. It'll email them when stuff gets picked up, when it's on the way, if it gets delayed, when it gets delivered. So there's a lot of software out there that can help you with those types of problems. There is the point I was trying to make at the beginning of the episode is this seems like small stuff. If one customer emails you and says, hey, what's my tracking number? It's not very much to open the shipping software, get the tracking number, copy it, paste it in the email, say, thanks, here it is. But when you have 5 people emailing you a day or 20 people emailing you a day or whatever, all of that stuff adds up. And the reality is that time that you're spending doing that is costing you money in your business. So it's a matter of saying, okay, am I spending so much time answering customer service emails and doing all this shipping kind of troubleshooting that it's more effective for me to just go ahead and spend that X amount of dollars per month on the shipping software? The same kind of principle applies to saving money on shipping labels. $1 here, $1 there might not make a big difference, but that software can really make a difference when you're shipping 5, 10, 15, 20 labels. I think that wraps up our series all about shipping and shipping related things. If you guys enjoyed this episode, I definitely suggest that you go back and watch the last few. We did cover shipping. I don't know what we're going to cover next, but if you want to hear something particular, feel free to leave us a comment, leave us a review. Of course, subscribe to the podcast if you enjoy it. I'll make sure and come up with a great episode, or at least a great series of episodes for the next few that we do. As always, thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it. I think I've gotten so much positive feedback. It's really motivating to keep on keeping on. So thank you guys for that. Thank you guys for the ones that silently watch and don't leave a review. Consider leaving us a review. Consider subscribing. It really makes a big difference because we can see all the analytics on the back end, and it really helps for all kinds of different reasons. So thank you guys for that. Until next time, make sure that you guys check out the rest of the episodes on Makers Mean Business. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We're on YouTube now. So anywhere you get your podcast, you can find us. Just look for Makers Mean Business. Until next time, y'all.